All right, welcome to another episode of Bugwatch. I am your boy Swiss Lee, and I'm here to talk to you about Tyranids. Joining me today, as usual, is the wonderful person that is JP. JP, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderfully well, enjoying a slightly different take on the musical intro. So I'm enjoying vibing along to some different music, but now I've been doing good. Looking forward to talking about some Tyranid results.
Nice. I think it's too loud, maybe. Let's have a look. Maybe it is. All right, well, hopefully that's better. Cool. Oh, man. Well, it has been a week and a bit for Tyranids. We've seen loads of lists go and nearly get to the precipice, not unlike our fabled team England at the Euros, unfortunately. Pour one out for our friends. But we're here to talk to you about Tyranids, not lackluster footballers. So, we're going to be talking to you today about a bunch of lists that nearly have won events. And then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about stats. I've done some slides with some wonderful graphs, as you know, that I like to do. It's what gets me up in the morning. We're also going to be doing a poll, a sexy poll, to decide what I'm going to be playing this weekend. But more on that in a minute. Yes, cool. John, what have you been doing this week? What's been going on in your world?
I have not had time to do much in terms of modelling. I did, however, put together, I don't know if it's going to show up, another psychophage.
Psychophage.
I am going to be trying in the league that I play in. So I like the madman I am, always trying to try new things. I decided to take Chushstamped. So in the leagues that I play in, you have to lock in your army and detachment at the beginning. And then if you want to change, you end up kind of dropping and re-entering. So it kind of forces you to work within what you've got. So it's quite a good place to mess around with things. And this is the first event, is the best way to put it, where I haven't played Invasion Fleet. So I'm kind of looking forward to trying something different. Like literally, I've only played him. Like I started.
Guys, we did it! We got him off Invasion Fleet! Yes, let's go!
So from last November, I've only played Invasion Fleet in literally every single game, and I decided to go, you know what? Let's have a go. We'll play some Chushstampede. And I got to play against CSM in round one with the Anvil Siege. I can't remember what the thing is. Anvil Siege Force. -1 to wound, which is really annoying when you're playing pile of Strength 9, Strength 10 weapons. But the nice thing was that they played lots of big bricks of units. So to come and kill my poor solo lictor, they had to commit 10 possess to the middle of the board, and they then died very swiftly afterwards. And that's how we played the game. But no, really enjoyed it. Walking through walls, just so you're all aware, is incredible fun and very overpowered. Like the rest of the army might not be, but that one stratagem is so broken. Like I literally just went, I'll put old One-Eye's unit behind a terrain piece, and it can literally go wherever it wants for 1 CP. And I'm like, happy days. And then we just kind of wrecked face from there. I think old One-Eye and his unit killed something like 8 heart, most of the possessed unit, a Vindicator, a Predator, and a Legionnaire unit. And it was just like, here's a pile of dice and let's go. And I've got round 2 of my league, hopefully this week, versus Hypercut Necron. So it's going to be a bit different. But we're playing on the UK TC missions. So I'm actually getting some valid practice with Chushstampede, because I have currently an event at the end of the month in the Tabletop Republic in High Wycombe, where I am not the only Tyranid player, but I might be the only one brave enough to not run Invasion Fleet. And I think I might try, at the moment it's a bit of a toss-up between Chushstampede for some fun and some learning experience, or Invasion Fleet. And I'm not going Invasion Fleet at the moment. I'm feeling like having some fun and running some Chushstampede.
Come and try some of the exotic spices that the world has to offer, John.
So that's why I need if it's going to show, this is why I need the second Psychophage, so then I can have some Feel No Pains in the army with no Feel No Pain. But I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, man. Very cool. This is great news. I'm so happy we got you off that drug.
To be fair, I do have to point out, Paul, you are correct. I would love to play Norns in Chushstampede and then realise that I actually don't own any Norns. So I'm kind of playing around with everything else. But Norns walking through walls onto objectives and getting 5 at Feel No Pain is that's smoking some hopium.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We are going to be talking about a lot of Norns, because a lot of Norns have been doing very well this week, actually. But before we do that, obviously, I was at an event last week. Obviously, I said if I did very well, I would present a video last week, an extra one, a bonus one. you can imagine that never happened, which only could be one thing, that I didn't do very well, and you would be right. It was all. I mean, it was close games, but it was fun. I took Chushstamped as well because I was like, just, you know what? I was like, I don't know what's good. I don't want to play Vanguard Onslaught right now. Well, I didn't mind, but I thought, it just didn't feel like it's really, you've seen my video, right? I'm just not enthused by it. So I decided to take Chushstampede because I haven't played it before, and it seems a lot of fun running through walls. And then I was like, you know what? I want the meme. Hive Tyrants are so much better. Swarm Lord's better because it can go through a wall, and they've got the ability to give you a -1 to the cost of a strat. And you know what? Tyrant Guard, yeah? I haven't used them in 10th edition. Let's give Tyrant Guard a go. So I actually played a list. I'll show you the photo of it now. This was the list I took to Spain in Barcelona. And boy, was it fun. I had a lot of fun playing this. So you can see there's 2 Exocrines, 2 Psychophages, 2 Maliceptors, Old Oneey, 2x6 Tyrant Guard, who are obviously attached to the Hive Tyrant and the Swarm Lord. And then just some other bits for like doing stuff. Oh yeah, I've said Old Oneey, right? Old Oneey was pretty funny. But no, I had a great time. I went 2-3, unfortunately. All my losses were very super close. I made some really funny mistakes because this was the first time I've got to play Pariah Nexus like in a row. So you might have heard of it from the 6++ show last week, which is on Tuesdays live, blah, blah, blah. Great show, by the way. And they were talking about secret missions and their first takes of Pariah Nexus. And Chris decided to bring up that I lost a game because I took a secret mission because I'm an idiot. In my game against World Eaters, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get table, but I think I've got the OC to steal objectives by the end of the game. What actually happened was I tabled him nearly and then couldn't score my primary because I'd already scored 20. So I lost by, I think it was 6 points. But if I'd have done it, if I'd have not taken the secret mission, I would have won by like, I don't know, I think it was like 12. It was because essentially in the first game, I got absolutely mullered by knights. And I thought, all right, I'm just going to take a secret mission. I was like, hey, this seems all right. I could actually get points with this. So then when it happened in the World Eaters game, I was like, yeah, I'm just going to take a secret mission. Whoopsie. But it was good fun. It was really good fun. Obviously the Tyrant Guard are pretty rubbish, right? Let's be real. They are pretty diabolical. Even when they've got +1 to hit because one of them is dead. Even you can spend 1 CP to give them full rerolls to hit as well, which isn't terrible. The best thing they did, I was playing demons. I had 6 blood crushers run into them and then kill 2 Tyrant Guard. In return, the Tyrant Guard and High Tyrant killed 5 blood crushers.
Wow.
Like, oh, power! I am strong! Davey Smash! But yes, that was a fun game. All Oneey is really funny, Chushstampede, because you can be on an objective, get charged by your opponent. Your opponent then hits him, does like 3 wounds, whatever. Or even better, they do like, in this case, they did like 3 wounds. He then hits them back with +1 to hit. And then in my command phase, regains the wounds so that he gets more OC, so then he reclaims the objective.
Oh, that's ruinous.
Isn't that really fun?
Oh man, you said there was no combos in Chushstampede.
Oh, that's not a combo. Come on, you are hoping really
I'm smoking
that happens. The Psychophages weren't terrible. I know I'm going to eat my own words. They were okay. I liked one of them for giving a 6-up feel no pain to like a bubble, and then the other one was shoved on an objective early doors because it has a decent amount of OC. They can't just put something on the objective because it has the good OC. So an opponent has to come and hit it, and it's pretty hard to kill, realistically. That's what it's good at. It's good at being around. Is it good at killing anything? Oh, no, it's not. Even when it's below half strength and it's +1 to hit and wound, it's pretty bad. The Flamer can be quite funny if it's wounding like Marines on 2s, but it's AP1, right? So no one cares. I think with this though, I wanted more chaff. I needed more things to score secondaries, but it was really good fun. Maliceptors are just so good. I can't imagine a list without them. They're so powerful. Excrin's still doing work. Swarm Lord's amazing. I love having a Hive Tyrant and a Swarm Lord because you just get so much efficiency on the strats. It's so much fun. Like, it's so cool. But yeah, so that was my event. I think I beat demons and I beat Marines, Ironstorm. I lost to Knights, which I was like, oh. I went to that event last year at the start of 10th edition when everyone was playing Knights, and I played Knights 3 times out of 5 games. So then when I got my first round opponent and it was Knights again, I was like, yeah, sick. But so I knew the Knights game was going to go badly. And then I played something. Then I played World Eaters. I can't think what was in between, but it was really, really good. Really, a really thoroughly fun event. So had a blast. Aaron went 4-1 with Custodes, so high five to Aaron, who's now moved to America. So he's going to terrorize people on the other side of the pond now, which is good. Good for him. I'm sad, but it's good for him. All right. Other than that, though, just trying to figure out what I'm going to take to Hellstorm. So that's at the end of August, and I'm very keen to do well there and gain back some credibility. So let's see how we go. Let's go to the walls. We've got Paul Evans. Hello. We've got John M. Gibson. We have got Solomon Sia. Good evening. Dank. Good to see you, mate. Fellow Chushstamped enthusiast. Paul Evans. Hello. We've got John. Wait, isn't old One-Eye Crusher a very odd choice? Yeah, he's pretty odd. I don't know. No, maybe not. I think he hits on 3s. He's pretty good. And then you 1 CP reroll hit. Sorry, hits on 3s. Then he can hit on 2s, I think, right? That's how it works. And then he also spend 1 CP to reroll hits. He can also, obviously, tank shock, which is pretty good. So you can put him into things that are nearly dead. He tank shots a thing that's nearly dead and then pals into the next thing. Like, he's just a bit of a savage. I was rapid ingressing him behind a wall, like near to my opponent's deployment zone, so that then he can just like run through and go. Rah, 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 rah. It was really, really great.
I do think the old One-Eye Crusher is an interesting one because, like, in theory, you don't need the CP as much if you take him with his mates. I do think that old One-Eye just fills a hole in Tyranids now in any detachment that wants monsters because you generally don't have the amount of output. And if you just take the DAC effects brood in any detachment, you just throw in a pile of dice, especially if you've got the Hive Tyrant with him, where you can stretch out that 6-inch lethals aura. And with a Carnifex brood, you're rolling on average somewhere about 12 auto wounds with your strength 7 AP2 once you factor in all your dice. And then you still get to roll to wound. I just think that old One-Eye right now for 390 is such a ludicrous unit. Sure, you don't get the +1 to hit until you lose a Carnifex, but they're very hard to kill on the charge because you can give them the -1 to hit for a CP, which potentially can be -1 to wound with a battle shock check. And their toughness enough to make most things wound on 4s or 5s, and they have a 2-up armor save. Like,
I think you're higher on that than I am. I like him on his own. I don't think I'd take Carnifexes because, yeah.
I know. I think either of them's fine. I like him with his mates because it gives you a very powerful Overwatch and shooting threat. But also, I think old One-Eye on his own for 140 points is like, if anyone's like try to kill him, it's not easy. He's got a 2-up armor save. He'll get cover most of the time. He has a 5-up feel no pain, and he regens D3 wounds every command phase. Like,
yeah, man, it's just cool.
That's some sticking power for 140 points. Like, yeah. I think most take that
for me. It's between him and a Haruspex, right? And for 15 more points,
yeah,
you just get. I think he's just better.
Oh, 100%. If you have a Haruspex, you should probably upgrade it to old One-Eye and then put the Haruspex in after that. Like, the Haruspex has its advantages that it's like T11 and 14 wounds, but it's nowhere near as resilient as old One-Eye is. He is deceptively tanky.
Yeah, I think, and then with changes here is, I think the changes that I'm going to make is an Exocrine's coming out, and I'm trying to wiggle in. I know, no. Well, the thing is, I think with the new maps, right, UKTC and, I've got the fizziest beer of all time. And GW terrain. There's one really good shooting angle, and after that, actually, the rest of them are subpar shooting angles, or things that the Maliceptors can kind of get into anyway. So having one is great. What I want is this list was so slow and ponderous. That's what really hurt. So I would love a Trigon in here for sure. So I think a Trigon's coming in, and then I'm trying to wiggle it around to fit a Trigon, and then maybe upgrade the Hormagaunts to Gargoyles, or maybe get some more action guys in there. The Raveners were really good, but there's a big learning curve in when not to throw your Raveners away, because they can score you so many more points across the game. But if you're putting them somewhere to get you like 2 extra points, don't do it. Like, there's so much more that they can do.
I do agree with that sentiment about UKTC. I played 3 of them into Scale Space Marines, and you end up with some awkward firing lanes with the new ruin. Like obviously, you've got to remember for UKTC now they have substantially changed the terrain layout where they've brought back the little L ruins.
Yeah, boy, let's go.
And they've put them on a 3-inch by 9-inch footprint, which is all obscuring terrain because it uses the ruins rule. So you can't see through those ruins. So you can literally hide monsters behind them. Like the exocrines, I do agree have started to become less. They're not less good, but especially on UKTC, they're slightly less easy to use. And I mean, I'm tempted at the moment to drop one out for a Haruspex, so I then have 2 exocrines, 3 Maliceptors, because I do think they're now one of the best units in the army with everything going a little bit more melee. And then 1 Haruspex is kind of like the counter-attacking punch. You take a charge with the Haruspex with the Maliceptor, and then Haruspex goes in afterwards and should be able to pick up most things with full rerolls to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to see how take it away from Crusher for a second. How and what stands up versus Blood Angels? That's what I'm really interested to see. I mean, in Crusher, you can -1 to hit your opponent and maybe -1 to wound them, which is really cool. I think you've already got that with the Maliceptor, so it's one of those. But it's really interesting to see how that kind of pans out. So a little bit of concern. I want something that's going to stand up to Blood Angels, and it's very difficult to figure out.
I do think the T11 breakpoint because the Lamarty's unit strength 10, correct?
The Lamarty's unit, I think, so it goes to strength 8 on the Power Fist, and then +2, yeah, so strength 10.
So the toughness 11 breakpoint on the Maliceptor is really important because even though on the surface it doesn't look like a big number difference, the fact that that whole unit is now wounding you on 5s versus 4s for a lot of monsters, I think is really big. And I'm trying to work out, I haven't had a chance to do out the math for it, but I'd be interested to see if an Invasion Fleet Maliceptor survives Lamarty's unit with the -1 to hit and then 5 up Feel No Pain, plus you've got the 4 up Invulnerable. And
I think they've got lethals, mate. I think that's what the killer is. That's the tricky one. But obviously there's only so many lethals, right?
Yeah, again, like the full rerolls to hit, they're going to go fishing a little bit more. So you're less likely to have the random hits left over because you might see a lot more people re-rolling their 4s and the 5s just to try and get lethals because the 5s to wound is a big difference. But I think the -1 to hit, I think it's going to be close. I'd be actually really interested. Even the Lance might make a difference. It depends what detachment it's in, I think. But it's rough. But again, if you take it on one monster...
there you go, JP. That's Jack. Hey, Gilmaris in the chat. Jack of 6++ fame has also pointed out it's lethals and lance.
Yeah, so you have to try and bait them into hitting a Maliceptor or a monster, and then them not be able to pile into anything else.
I think that Maliceptor bites it, man. I think it's then it becomes like, what can I give them that will just die and I'll be happy about it.
Yeah, I just think Blood Angels and Sisters are just rough for us right now.
And Christopher Richard in the chat here saying, I played a Mali versus Death Company 10-man yesterday and it went down fairly convincingly. Yeah, I reckon so. Although it didn't have the Feel No Pain, so that's fair.
Yeah, I am very interested. I do think, like you say, like we've seen this weekend that Blood Angels / Space Marines / Sisters do seem to be kind of pushing out at the top of the meta, especially Blood Angels. Yeah. But there are other things, like there was no Blood Angels in the top cut of Sheffield Super Major. It was CSM Necron Admech who defunct that one, and Dark Angels. But it was a weird one because there was, I can't remember who was in 5th place. Was it Ed who was in 5th place? Or did he
Ed was 6th, I think.
But you had like 2 4 and 1 Blood Angels lists just knocking on the outside, and then I can't remember what 5th place was, but it was really interesting. Like there was no Blood Angels at the top, but the Blood Angels were prevalent at the top of Sheffield's results, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's only week 3, right? People are still working out what's the ideal. Like we're getting to the stage of the ideal list, but then also people are trying to figure out how to play against him. So we shall see. But if you are interested in watching Warhammer 40,000, guys, I will be playing this Friday on Friday Night Fight against the aforementioned Ed that JP just mentioned. So that's Ed Watts, who just won a golden ticket, in fact, I believe. So if you'd like to see me get my poo pushed in by Ed this Friday, come and watch. We'll be doing this at 8 o'clock. This is Ed's new show that he runs every Friday. It's a live show on TTS, so you can see how to use TTS, and he's really great at talking through games, and he's a super cool guy. And I'll be taking Tyranids there. Now, here's the most important thing, though, guys. You right at home listening right now can actually choose what I'm going to play. So I'll put the poll up at the end of the show so that you can actually choose. But we're going to go through some of these lists. You're going to choose between 3 of these lists that I've picked out that I would be happy to play, alongside my Chushstamped list because I couldn't think of a 4th one that I wanted to play, and you get to choose what I'm going to play against Ed. Ed will be taking Emperor's Children. So I don't really know what that means. I think they're just CSM but with Lucius, right? That's about it.
Probably, yes.
Yeah.
I think it got its own index, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think it's 2 pages long. And Jack of 6++ fame will also be there to commentate and talk you through in detail how my poo gets pushed in. So it'll be really fun game, guys. So we'd love you to be there. But first of all, pick what I'm going to play. All right, cool. Let's get on with some lists. All right, we're going to go with the lists first, and then we're going to do the sexy graphs at the end, just because then you can vote while the sexy graphs are on. So number 1, Andrew Hope. Andrew Hope in the UK, the United Kingdom that we are sitting today, he's brought Invasion Fleet, and he went 4-1 at the Dark Sphere July 40k GT. JP, will you take us through the list, please, mate?
Yeah, I do have to caveat this. I do have to apologise to all Tyranid players out there who ever play against a gentleman called Sam Smith and his Chaos Space Marines, who this poor gentleman lost to. I have given that man so many games of Tyranids now, I think I'm running out of count. I think currently we are 2-1 and with 2 wins each, 2 losses each, and a draw each. And we've had some random games in the meantime. He's played a lot of Tyranids, so he might have had some benefit on that.
He's a top lad. He's a really nice guy.
So, simple list. There's a lot of characters. So this is kind of one of the interesting builds that we've kind of seen crop up in the first couple of weeks. And we also saw it at Sheffield in the hands of Charles Holland and JP Rogers. This build where it's Swarm Lord plus Hive Tyrant. So again, similar to your list, Davey, from Barcelona, where they're trying to use the Swarm Lord and the Hive Tyrant in the same list to get access to the Onslaught aura of Assault and Lethals, but also then the Lord of Deceit, where you get to have that 12-inch Vect ability. Mm-hmm. So this list is running Death Leaper, Old One Eye plus Friends, Swarm Lord, and then the Hive Tyrant, who was Heavy Venom Cannon and Bone Whip, Lash Whip and Bone Sword. It doesn't seem to have had any enhancements put on it. 10 Gargoyles as your battle line. People seem to think that you need battle line. I am curious to kind of see, like, I know there is a secret mission that allows people to score points if you don't have battle line, but they still have to jump through a number of hoops. It's not an automatic freebie. So that's just something to bear in mind. And then Biovore, triple Lictor, 11 Neurogrunts. Like, they just seem good for 45 points, like for actions and stuff, and sitting in your backfield completely blocking stuff out. 2 Neurolictors, a Pyrovore, and then we've got the monster contingent of 2 count effects with Death Spitters, Execrim Maliceps, Tran effects with a Rupture Cannon. And all of this army doesn't like Triple Vindicator, which they had to play in the final round. So that's quite an interesting one as well. But, so, as you can see on here, they had to go through Necrons twice. Big wins versus Necrons, 96, 55, and 137. That is substantial victories. A big win versus Chaos Knights, which is quite interesting because generally Knights can cause Tyranids a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. But obviously this list focuses a lot more on actually beating things up in combat, so I can actually see this being a much better matchup for them. Being strength 10 in melee now versus toughness 10, I believe War Dogs are, it makes a big difference when you're trying to wound. And then GSC was a very close game. I believe it was against Nicholas Eck, who's another player in the UK who I believe is on the War Masters team. Very strong player, loves his GSC. That was a 2-point victory, and then unfortunately fell to Sam in the final round against Packed Chaos Space Marines with 71-83. So really, really good run. Very, very interesting list design. Kind of just playing a little bit more with the utility pieces and less with kind of traditional monster builds of multiple Maliceptors and Exocrines.
Yeah. I think it's super interesting. Obviously, you got quite a varied amount of monsters here as well. We know that a lot of people are taking 2 of, 3 ofs, etc. But got a nice little mix here. Swarmlord and Hive Tyrant I've pulled out as well. 6 lone ops in this list as well, which is quite a lot for an invasion fleet list. So yeah, no, it seems like he's done really well here. And again, as you've said, against pretty strong opposition. Dank has said in the chat there about battle line being in lists. Obviously, there's a lot of like secondaries or mission rules and whatever that benefit battle line. And, off the top of my head, banners is obviously an important one. We had banners twice in Spain last weekend.
Oh, wow.
And, you might say, well, it's only a point. But actually, if you look at that GSC game, if he was playing banners and he got 2 up,
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you can see how games get so close, right? And I think it does matter. I do think those points do matter because they're the games where if you don't have it, you will kick yourself.
Yeah, I do think it is tournament dependent. Like I think if you're playing a tournament with two of the 5 missions have battle line specific things, then I think you are very much incentivized to do it. But I think if you play a tournament with potentially just one battle line contingent thing, then I mean, it's one that you might drop a few points on, but I don't think. I think at that point there is an interesting discussion on: do you need to play battle line if it's only one? If you have none in your tournament pack, then you kind of
100%.
hoping your opponents don't have the ability to score the secret mission. But if they're also taking a secret mission, there might also be a point where you're that far ahead it doesn't matter.
Goes back to our Pariah Nexus advice, right? It's like, more than ever, read the mission pack.
100% read the mission pack because the 2 missions I've played so far, Terraform doesn't need battle line, Take and Hold, Hidden Supplies doesn't need battle line. So I think you kind of have to very much take each tournament as it comes. And I can only reiterate what Davey says: read the mission pack is the most important thing because it will tell you what you really need to build your list around.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then a good friend of the show, Chavo. So this was Chavo at the event in Barcelona that I was at. He took this list. He said, Davey, this list is bad. It's not going to be very good. But he still managed to squeak out a 4-1 with it. So well done to him. So Chavo took a Hive Tyrant with Monstrous Scythe and Talons, which I believe is the right way to take a Hive Tyrant. Because Heavy Venom Cannon just is rubbish and that very rarely does anything. And then a Last Rip and Bone Sword. He had a Neuro Tyrant with Power of the Hive Mind for that really good flamer to make it a pseudo Redeemer. 10 times 10 Hormigans because Chavo literally cannot leave home without Hormigans. He actually gave me one of his Hormigans as a gift. And then in terms of other units, he's got 2 Lictors, 11 Neurogaunts, a Pyrovore, 3 Raveners, and 6 Zoanthropes to pair with the Neuro Tyrant. And then monsters, he Noah's arced the shit out of this with 2 Exocrines, 2 Maliceptors, and 2 Screamer Killers. He was really concerned about the Screamer Killers, but actually he said, in a conversation afterwards, that they actually did okay. Once he kind of got a bit of a handle on how to use them a bit better, he did find them pretty good. Not just from Strat Reserve or from Rapid Ingress. He actually had them on the board in some games, and they did really good work. So that's very cool. His run, he did lose to Blood Angels game 1. He then went into CSM, which he then beat. He then got my World Eaters player in a headlock and beat him. And then he got my Knights player that beat me and got him in a headlock and beat him. Just to really push it in, just to really make me feel great. And then he even beat Custodes at the end. And I think he came like 5th or 6th, which was really positive. So some of the cool stuff I brought off here is obviously Synaptic Nexus stonks is going up. You're going to see Synaptic Nexus far outweighs the rest of the lists we're seeing do reasonably well this week and last week. One of the things, obviously, Hormigans, I think, we spoke about last week. They obviously got a little bit better, but the Hormigans plus the Neurotyrant obviously is a very good, nice. I mean, it's a combo is a strong word for it, but you know what I mean. Like it's a nice buffing piece to get them to strength 4, so they can do some really interesting things, as well as be battle line, as well as be trading pieces. And then obviously the 2 Screamer Killers, which just triggered out more of those battle shocks for him, whilst also punching things in the face. So pretty strong. I'm interested to see how his game against the Knights went. I figured it's a bit of hiding and then brain laser in them. It's not what I would say though. Even in my game, where I didn't have a great deal of lethals, I had my aura around the Hive Tyrant, but I still managed to kill the 2 big Knights. I got one of them down to like 2 wounds, but the other big Knight I absolutely mullered. So I think there is a lot to be said about like we can kill Knights. There's just too many of them. So you need to start shooting them from turn 1. You can't miss turn 1 shooting a Knight, really. Oh, you can. Well, I suppose you can, but it's like it really hurts because you need as many activations as possible to get through them. Any thoughts on Chavo's list, JP?
I like it. I think that the Screamer Killers are an interesting one because they get the interesting Strength 11 break point because I think the Strength 10 base on their attacks are going to Strength 11 is quite an interesting break point into a lot of things. Not necessarily the smaller stuff, but like when you actually grapple with a vehicle or a monster, you suddenly actually go to start winning them on 3s. And I do think there's a lot of output. I think that Knights is kind of one of those matchups where if it's War Dog spam, then Tyranids struggle a lot more because it's just volume of models. But when they start putting big Knights in, if you can hide from them, it looks really good. And obviously the Screamer Killer benefit is it gets unlimited free pivots. because it's on a round base. So you can always more or less get line of sight to activate your battle shock abilities on the from the shooting. So I think Screamer Killers definitely have a place. I think Synaptic Nexus, I can't 100% work out why it's going up so much, because the top of the meta is still like leadership 6. I think it's more because we've seen kind of Invasion Fleet lose out, so I think you can start to run Synaptic Nexus a bit more. Again, it leans into kind of a similar build style, but you're running more synapse, you're getting access to more strength. I think the stratagems are great. I think just having access to mortal wounds is good. But in terms of Dank's question, the honest answer is I don't know, and I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm probably not the person to give you the answer because I haven't really experienced the list for Synaptic Nexus, and I do think a lot of it is just player preference, and the way that it plays kind of suits people's play styles.
Some people just like shooting shit, right? And and it has the buff there. I think it's not. I don't think it's bad. In fact, I think it's probably the best one. If it wasn't that demons were so prevalent, like that's the only reason I didn't take Synaptic Nexus to Barcelona, because I thought, like, if there's demons and you get pulled against demons, like it's a super feels bad when your entire list, or not even, I mean, when I build Synaptic Nexus, I really lean into that mortal wound strat. And that is like, for me, is a big like downside if you go into demons or anything like that. Danks also pointed out, do we think Inez's WTC list that has 3 Morlocks to rapid ingress potential to divide points? I'm assuming, Dank, I haven't seen this yet. If Inez has taken Synaptic Nexus and 3 Morlocks, he's following in the footsteps to an extent of Eric Lathurus, who's been pioneering the Synaptic Nexus 3 Morlock build for months and months and months. You'll have heard me bang on about it on the show in the past, and there is loads of rapid ingress potential there. And the mortal wounds that they do is really, really fun. Like, it's a really fun list to play. So yeah, I'm hoping that Inez has a great time with it. Inez, who by the way said he watches the show, JP. Whoop, whoop.
I know, I heard. I thought it was very good. I thought it was very cool. But no, going back to Dank's point, kind of the whole the ability to threaten your opponent's ability to do actions with a rapid ingress Morlock is never going to be understated. I don't think
they've moved.
I also don't think your opponent's not going to do the action even at the risk, but it might just make them put more stuff on objectives. It's a weird one, right? Because they'll probably just have to commit more stuff, which again gets you more value out of your mortal wounds when it appears at a rapid ingress. I
would say it's a really good team list, right? I don't like it as an all-comers list.
No, I don't. I think it's very specifically, like you said, WTC. It's there to prey on the 1 wound armies because you want to just spam out a pile of mortal wounds out of the stratagem, but also out of the Morlocks, which just gives you this huge threat into like Genestealer Cult, into Eldari, potentially into Drukhari, depending on what style of build they play. Sky Splinter kind of less so, but into whatever I can't remember what the normal one, Real Space Raiders detachment kind of gives you a thing. But against Sisters as well, being able to kind of plink a lot more mortal wounds off stuff, activating more stratagems in your opponent's turn, I do think definitely has some value. Is this year's WTC with Pariah Nexus? Because people weren't sure if it was going to be Leviathan.
I can't remember. But if he's, I don't know. I can't remember.
I hope it is Pariah because I think it'd be super.
Teams, JP, I don't know. I don't care.
I think it'd be super interesting to see what people come up with, though. I would like it to be Pariah Nexus because I don't think it will necessarily define the meta because it's still a teams event, but I think it'll be a really good idea of where kind of people's thoughts are going. And I think Tyranids now having access to sort of 3 or 4 valid detachments does give you some really interesting play. And I do think that triple Morlock Synaptic Nexus list does have a lot of flavour to it. It could be really good.
It's so much fun, guys. You've got to get it on the table. It's so much fun. Let's get on to the next one because I've realised it's 20 past 8. All right, Matt Evans with his Synaptic Nexus, and he went 4-1 at the Denver Fight Club July Open. His characters, Death Leaper, a Neurotyrant with the power of the Hive Mind, and my little favourite boy in this Synaptic Nexus, in the whole Synaptic Nexus attachment, I just love putting him in the list, is a Parasite with the Dirge Heart. We've also got a Biovore and 6 Zoanthropes. We've got 2 Exocrines, 2 Malazeptors, 2 Norns, and a Norn assimilated as well. So not only is it stompy, it is shooty. It will shoot the shit out of you whilst asking you to take battle shock tests, which is quite cool. One of the things I noticed, though, not many action monkeys here. Like, we're not seeing Raveners or Battle Line or Lictors. This is I'm going to punch you in the face list and hopefully score points along the way. We've got 3 Norns, so that's a something. That's a thing. So really interesting. I can't talk too much about Norns. I've never put one on a table yet because I've just never really enjoyed the value. But I do totally get how they work in, like how it's an attraction in Synaptic Nexus. Matt went. He smashed a Deathwatch player. He then smashed a Wolf Jail player, which is no easy feat. He then went into guard and lost to guard. I looked at the list: triple Bullgring and triple Lehman Russ Exterminators. So I think like it's pretty tough matchup to get into. And you know, what do? Do you stand back, sit back, go forward? Like it's a pretty tough one to get into. He then goes and then smashes Wolf Jail again, an 18-18 win, no less in round 4. That's pretty strong. And then he goes in nearly 20 O's Votan as well. So I'd be good if I was Matt Evans. I've 20 O, like nearly 20 O'd, or have 20 O'd pretty much 4 players and then lost 1 game. Well done, Matt. Like great effort here. So you should be very proud of yourself. And it's a very fun looking, cool list. Nice. All right, let's get on to the next one. We're at Gordon Sunding. Now, I can't show you the big blue error here is essentially the event is not on BCP anymore for some reason. It just doesn't let me. This is a team triples event, which is a very unique, I suppose, proposition. But I did want to share the list with you because I thought it was quite interesting again. So the characters here, just to quickly go through it, is Death Leaper, a Neurotitan with Psychostatic Disruption, which is the delay your 12-inch bubble and delay your opponent's reserves 1 unit on a 4-up. So it's a 12-inch bubble, essentially. And then what I quite liked about this is obviously Synaptic Nexus does lean into shooting. We've seen that in the last one. But there's not just like big monsters or big laser beam brain weapons that you can do with this. You can lean into Barbgorns as well. So 2x5 Barbgorns. We've got Biovore. We've got the Zone Throw-ups there. 2x6 Zone Throw-ups, no less, which is really strong. Really strong leaning into that shooting. We've got the Maliceptors. And we have the non-emissaries as well. So really interesting. Psychostatic is very pricey. It's not something you put in there because you've got some points left. That's a decision you've made to put that in the list. So it'd be really interesting to see why Gordon's done that. I think that's quite interesting. Loads of Synapse here as well, which is really nice. 3 Neurolictors to do those Battle Shock tests and try and do some mortals, which is quite cool. But yeah, I think it's an interesting list. I would like to try it, to be fair. It's quite interesting. I think it's on the list of the ones that I've given the guys as an option for me to play at the weekend. So, any thoughts on this one or the last one, JP?
I love Triple Norn. I think it's really good. I think if you're playing into a format with low AP and melee, then Norns are just ridiculously hard to kill in Synaptic Nexus because of Armor of Contempt. I really like it. It's 15 OC. If you only have AP 1, and it was the reason that Triple Norn was so good in the Wraith meta, is because you ran on, you put 15 OC on objective and went, good luck ever killing me because you're AP 1. And then you go to AP 0 and it's on a 2-up save. So I do really like it. This list as well, I think, again, slightly more built into a teams. I'm not sure it's really designed to beat because the Zoanthropes are very swingy, especially the unit that's not with the Neurotyrant. And this unit doesn't have any exocrines you're relying on the stratagem to reroll hits and wounds of 1. So you're kind of a bit heavier on your stratagem usage. So your CP may end up not being as much for like the mortal wound stratagem or for kind of armor of contempt. And you're going to have to more focus on reroll hits and wounds of 1, which for double Zoanthrope is great, but it's something you obviously need to bear in mind a little bit more with this style of list.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Norns are great, by the way. Norns in Synaptic Nexus are the real
Armor Contempt that shit, right? That's super fun.
It's a 2-up save. It's ridiculously hard to kill anyway, and then you pile on Armor of Contempt. Like, if you've got AP 1 or 2, good luck shifting this thing off an objective. Which is, I think, the reason it beat Wolf Jail so hard, because I know they've got Dev Wounds, but you have a 5-up Feel No Pain on that. But because Dev Wounds are now Mortal Wounds, you've got the stealth buff of having a 4-up Feel No Pain versus Dev Wounds.
Yeah.
So you do also have to kind of bear in mind that the non-emissaries now are much harder to kill. So you can't just do them out with Dev Wounds because they get a really good save versus it. They also are incredibly tough to kill without AP. So I can definitely see why it beat the Wolf Jail list, but kind of, or it would beat a style of Wolf Jail like in the previous list. So I think that's kind of a thing you need to be aiming for. You need to pick your meta. I think this list might be able to handle Blood Angels a bit better because non-emissaries, I don't think die in 1 turn to Lamati's unit.
Well, it's funny you say that because I think Yeah, this one. So this was Rami Towell's list at TGX. I have no idea where those things are. It was a bit of a rush today pulling this together, so apologies. I haven't done as much in terms of looking at the list that they played against. But this is Ramysynaptic Nexus list, which is also, again, very strong. He went into Blood Angels and beat them 74-61, so well done. And that was round 5, so obviously a decent Blood Angels player too, so great to see. He has taken a Hive Tyrant, a Monster of Scything Talons with Lash Rip and Bone Sword. He's also given that Synaptic Control for the -1 damage. You've got a Neuro Tyrant, again, with the enhancement. And you've got the Swarm Lord to annoy the hell out of your opponents. 10 Termagants, Biovore, Neurolictor, Ripper Swarm. And why it's in here, baby, is 6 Tyrant Guard. It's not a meme. Make your memes dreams. Get the Tyrant Guard in your list. 6 Zoanthropes as well, obviously to go with the, I imagine, to go with the Neuro Tyrant to get the +1 to hit. And then in terms of monsters, we've got an Exocrine, a Norn of each flavour, and a Psychophage. So yeah, he lost to Orcs round 1, and then submarine that shit by smashing a Dark Angels player, absolutely battering a Vanguard Onslaught player. Imagine that. Kind of Wolf Jail he then beat as well. He then beat, obviously, a round 5 Blood Angels player, pretty good. And then Tau, he got a narrow win against as well. So not far off winning the event. So well done to Rami. Again, the cool spicy nice here is the double Tyrant, the Tyrant Guard to go with them, which is pretty cool. I imagine they go with the Hive Tyrant if it's got Monstrous Scything Talons. And the Swarm Lord kind of hides behind a building, annoying everyone until late in the game, where he jumps out and goes, "Wah, look, I'm still here and I'm going to beat you all up." Also, a Psychophage. I don't know what. I'm not keen on a Psychophage outside of Crusher, to be quite honest. Like, I don't really. I know it's a Fiona Pain. I know that can be kind of cool. I quite like him near Tyrant Guard, I suppose. But it's just not quite good enough, in my personal opinion.
I think the Psychophage just value increases in Crusher because it's OC5 when it hasn't taken any wounds, and the OC does make a big difference because it can out OC any other monster or vehicle in the game shy of a Monolith or a Norn, like things that are like
giant,
right price point. But again, we are seeing double Norn here, and I do think the Orcs loss is the interesting one. It'd be interesting in what Orc list it was, but kind of like Vanguard Onslaught. If you want to dumpster Vanguard Onslaught, just put some Norns in your list because they do no damage versus Norns. They'll do maybe half its wounds at best with a whole unit, and then the Norn just stands there and goes, "All right, cool. What else you got?" Because its toughness is. It's very tough. It's got the 2-up save. You're taking 3-up armor saves if you don't have a brute. And again, it's the same for the warriors. They're wounding on 5s. I think, well, it depends. I can't remember the toughness of a Norn if it's 12 or 11.
No, it's 11.
Is it 11? So
that's why I don't like him.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of like if you're planning to dumpster melee armies, then Norns are a really good way to do it. And then if you ever get a chance to combine that with a Maliceptor and its aura, like... I'm not trying to put you off, but good luck because those Norns are tough. And also the Norn assimilator being able to come in from Strat Reserve and have a 7-inch charge out of reserve is really big as well. So it's kind of you get to provide this interesting line of threat that a lot of armies can't necessarily deal with very well because once that is in your backlines, that thing does a lot of damage.
Have you included the Synaptic Imperative with that as well? Because you can get the Synaptic Imperative, which
6-inch charge. It's dumb, and it has. It's just you get it in Synapse range, and it just yeets into combat.
Well, it is Synapse.
It
is Synapse.
Yeah, so it yeets itself into combat with 6-inch charge. Is just ludicrous. It's so nice.
Yeah, pretty fun. Cool. All right. Next one, Larry Oliver. Yes, proving that Chushstampede is viable. Right, this was a teams event, but I didn't want to just talk about Synaptic Nexus the entire time, right? So, Chushstampede. We've got a Hive Tyrant with Ominous Presence, a heavy Venom Cannon. I assume you just have points spare for Ominous Presence because I don't think... I mean, maybe you take it because it becomes OC8, I suppose.
For 15 points, you're OC6, even when you take wounds, you're OC8 when you're unwounded. If you can ever get on objective behind a ruin, like nothing, there's very few, unless it's battle line, not a lot out OCs the Hive Tyrant.
On an objective behind a ruin, is that where you want your 240 point unit, 250 point unit?
Yes. If that's where it needs to be, that's where it will be.
Oh, man.
But
we've got that.
It's 15 points. The 10-point upgrade is a waste of time. If you have 15 points spare, I think it's a perfectly decent enhancement to take.
And then we've got a Biovore, Lictor, 3 Raveners. We've also got 3 Exocrines, 2 Maliceptors. So we've got all the classic good stuff. We've got a Norn Emissary, a Trigon, and 2 Rupture Fexes. So I think this is... I mean, if you're playing a teams event and you're taking 2 Rupture Fexes, you are making a statement that you are going into a certain army. Any ideas on what this is, John, as the resident teams guy?
I don't know.
No, me neither. But
So,
maybe.
I don't know. Like, I just find Rupture Fex is just. I think if you're taking 2 Fexes, I kind of side with Byron's take, where you take one of each. You take an Acid Fex and a Rupture Fex, or you don't take any. It's kind of a weird one. I do think that. But again, I don't know. Like this, if you're playing Crusher, are you wanting to tech into sort of vehicle opponents? Because then surely you'd be better in Nexus or Invasion Fleet for the lethals. I love this. I love the list, but I think the Rupture Fexes potentially could be something different, like old Oneey and his mates, maybe.
Is it maybe going for CSM?
What does the
You've got
Rupture?
loads of damage 3 that'll just get rid of Chosen bricks, Marine Legionnaire bricks, and the Rupture Fexes will. I know obviously it's overkill, but they will 100% destroy a Rhino, especially with the Hive Tyrant next to them. And of course, if they have something like Forge Fiends, like Vindicators, a Vindicator won't kill a Rupture Fex.
No, it doesn't.
So maybe it's CSM.
Potentially, I just think, it's an interesting one. I like the Rupture Fex if you feel you can afford it in the list, but I think now with the way that Tyranids now work, that Rupture Fex, the 380 points is it's a lot of points to go on other things.
Yeah, 100%.
But I do still think, like, if you're worried about, like, I think Dan's got it right. Like, I think if you're playing against, I think, to be fair, I think this is the guard matchup because you do just annihilate Lehman Russes with it.
Oh man, the guard matchup in a 5-player team event.
Yeah, that's more likely that's more likely where you're going to see guards turn up.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, bizarrely they played it twice on the run, and I wasn't even looking.
You are completely right. Yeah,
but I think there is definitely a place for Rupture Fex. I'm just not I think the Rupture Fex is likely more in teams than singles because I think if you're singles, you want to split them. I'm not personally on the Fex train, but I definitely think they are very good still.
Yeah, I think there is a place for Rupture Fex, and it's in my garage. Right, next list. Let's have a look. Rowan Kennett. Okay, it wouldn't be Bugwatch without a little talk about Vanguard Onslaught. And this was in Australia, the Exterminatus. I originally thought this was like a Czech event or something because I was like, Sausig? Is that a place in Czech? No, it's Sausage. Sausage Pie. And the list here, Death Leaper, Neurotyrant with Hunting Grounds. I told you about it months ago. It's so good. I think it's a wonderful enhancement. Winged Hive Tyrant with Chameleonic, taking on that Ben Andrade tech there that does really well. 2 primes. We've got 2 times 10 Gargoyles and 10 Hormigants. We've got a Biovore, 2 Neurolictors, a Pyrovore, 2 times 3 Raveners. Here's the Warrior Blobs, 2 times 6 Melee Warriors. 6 Zoanthropes to go with that Neurotyrant, and then 2 Morlocks. So notably, no Gene Stealers with Broodlord here. Quite interesting. The run here is a nearly like a 19, a strong win against Guard, a reasonable win against Grey Knights, a 19-point win, and then another good win against World Eaters before losing 2 points to Kirby K. I've wrote his name in here and not his detachment. This is how quickly I was doing this earlier, so apologies. I don't know
what were they actually playing.
Yeah, I don't know what he's playing, but the player was called Kirby K, so well done to Kirby K. And then a strong win against Custodes. So again, bullying some opponents, but then losing that narrow loss, same as Matt Evans earlier. So well done to Rowan. Unfortunately, mate, it's just a close one there. You've obviously performed very well this weekend. This, I really think, is a really good, solid Vanguard list. It's kind of, a good strong base for what we tend to see. There's a few little things that he's taken. He's took Hormigants there as well, which is, I think, probably an allowance on points. Like, he can't take a 3rd unit of Gargoyles, I imagine, unless he has some super sick reason to take Hormigants. We've got Hunting Grounds in there, but not the redeploy, which we know that people still quite like, despite the fact it's been nerfed. And then a Winged Hive Tyrant in there, so we know he probably had somewhere to hide it, I imagine, because it is still a big old boy. You can tell me I can hide his wing in a ruin, but unfortunately the other wing sticks out the other side of the ruin. So if he's got one wing in a ruin, the other wing's going the other way, which is still then probably visible. So it's very difficult to hide that boy.
Kirby K was playing Montcar Tau.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? Vanguard Onslaught don't like being rushed at. They really don't like it. No.
With many broadsides.
Many broadsides. Okay, and all them advancing and shooting. Lovely.
Yeah, and they. Do you want to know the best thing? They all have high yield missile pods.
Are they the? Oh, what are they again?
So they're the one with a pile of dice, not the rail guns. They're the missile pod systems where you have high yield missile pods, missile drones, and a twin missile system. It's like you just murder infantry.
Jack, I can feel Jack in the chat getting very excited right now at this tower list. No, very good. Byron's in the chat. Byron, hey, how you doing? Looks like a dream set of pairings to me, bar that sisters matchup in the guide before.
Yes.
So yeah, well, that's.
Sisters be rough.
Sisters be rough. Sisters be rough. Yes, I'm trying to think. Do I give Byron abuse for his score at the weekend? No, I'll let it go. I'll let it go.
Byron got unlucky. He had to play against Dank Angels, Dank Angels, Sisters, and Wolf Jail, and none of those are fun for Invasion Fleet.
Yeah, no, none of them are.
I think if you go first versus Wolf Jail, you're laughing. If you go second, you get hemmed in, and it's really rough.
Yeah, 100%. I wear long sleeves this week to cover the bruises. Good lad. All right, let's carry on. And then this is the last list we're going to be talking about, I think. So this is Nathan Roberts, also taking Vanguard Onslaught. Nathan's taken some spicy-ass lists recently. He took the all Tyranid Warriors list a couple of weeks ago, and I think he's amended it now to include some Morlocks and stuff, and some Exocrines, I believe. I don't think they were in his previous version. I could be wrong. But Nathan has taken a Neuro Tyrant and 3 Tyranid Warrior Primes. We've got 3x10 Gargoyles. We've got a Lictor, 2 Neurolictors, 3x6 Melee Warriors to go with those Primes, 6 Zone Throw-Ups, 2 Exocrines, and 2 Morlocks. So a very tight list. It feels very light, but it hits real hard. I'm interested about the 3 Melee Warrior Blobs, because whenever I was playing Vanguard Onslaught, I always find it very hard to deploy 2 units of melee warriors, because it's the big old bases, and even when you bring them in from reserve, they're very difficult to really hide from everything. You know, it's a bit of a gamble, not a gamble, but it's a big ask to make sure no one can shoot that unit. So really interesting one. I would love to see Nathan play this game to see how it works. Nathan's games were a very strong win, a close win against Grey Knights, and then a narrowish loss to Sisters, before then also beating Wolf Jail. So again, you know, it seems like Vanguard Onslaught can bully some armies, but then against I suppose the top of the meta to an extent, like it does have a hard time, even in the hands of an absolute awesome player like Nathan.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Boom. So Start time. Right. So now, guys, I am going to unleash a poll on you. What am I going to play on Friday against the wonderful Ed Watts, golden ticket winner Ed Watts? I'm going to press start poll now, and you can choose which list I will be playing. So your options are, let me see if this works. Hopefully it does. Nathan Roberts Vanguard Onslaught list, my own Chushstamped list, which I took to Barcelona, my Ramysynaptic Nexus list, and the last one just disappeared off my screen, the Gordon Sunding's, the more shooty Synaptic Nexus list. So please vote now, and then we can find out what I'm going to be playing on Friday. But while you are thinking about that, let me bore you with some stats. So we're 3 weeks into Pariah Nexus. Where are you now? What are we doing now? So we are the number 2 for players in games played. Number 1 is Necrons. That's quite impressive, right? We do tend to find this. A lot of people enter Tyranids again once there's been changes and things like that. We're number 7 for event wins. It's a bit schneidi to say we're number 7. We're actually joint with 10 other factions at 1 event win. We are number 14 for 4-0 starts at events. Number 1 is Sisters. There's a significant amount of factions in front of us there. This is out of 27 factions, right? And like Death Watch is in there, so that doesn't really count. So we're 14th. We don't tend to get those 4-0 starts. We are number 25 for overrep because we're so well represented, but we're not really winning anything more than what we should be winning a lot more. It is coming across like we're really struggling for that overrep. So then I've also looked at how we're doing versus. So the top graph here is how we're doing versus the average win rate of all factions put together. So you can see that the grey box is the average for factions, and the green one is Tyranids. So you can see the average army will 6% of players don't win any games, 18% win 1, 31% win 2, 28% win 3, and then after that it's 14 and 3% win 5 games. Really interesting that we are up. We're higher than average on 1 win. We're higher than average on 3 wins. We're about in line with 2, and we're actually in line with 4, which is really interesting. That we can win 4 games. That means we're probably losing maybe the first game and then submarining to get that 4th win in round 5. So generally, reasonably in line with everything, and it makes sense as well because we're at a 50% win rate right now. It's a very small margin pull, so I didn't want to talk about that too much. I just thought this was slightly more interesting. What I think is more interesting than this, though, however, is the bottom graph, which is what percentage of games did we win at events before and after Pariah. So I've called before Pariah Pariah.
Oh no.
Yeah, boy.
Oh,
all right.
no.
And then Pariah is obviously Pariah. So pre-Raya, we had 8% on 0 wins, 26% on 1 wins, 32% on 2 wins, etc., etc. What's happened since Pariah came out is our 0 wins and 1 wins have declined, and we've grown in our 2s, 3s, and 4s, which is really positive. We have seen a decline at 5 wins though. So while we're not getting absolutely stuffed as much, we're also not getting the 5th win, generally speaking. But we are more middle table. We're the mid-table menace. So that's really interesting, I thought. So just a little bit of insight. We'll do something a bit more hardcore when we've got more games under the belt. And then our matchup matrix, which I thought was quite interesting. So we tend to have a good game. Again, this is such a small sample size. But what the numbers you are seeing here is what the points differential is to your opponent win or loss on average. So obviously there's some really crazy ones here. So Black Templars. We've obviously not had many games into Black Templars, which means it's skewed it really high. But some of the more interesting ones, I think, are factions that are well represented. So Sisters. Sisters, we have a 4-point or 5-point swing on average, beating Sisters, which I thought was...
Oh, wow, really?
Whoa, okay, yeah, exactly. Whereas versus, for example, Grey Knights, which we'll have had a few games into, we've got a loss against them. Which then made me think, hey, what about when we made that big thing about, does the changes in Pariah Nexus fix Vanguard Onslaught? So I had a look at our worst matchups to see if they've changed at all. And you know what? They have a little bit. So did Pariah Nexus fix Vanguard Onslaught? You might remember I talked about Knights and combat armies being our big kind of, I suppose our Achilles heel. So you can see that Knights pre-Raya, we were losing by 23 points across both flavors of Knights. That's reduced by about 8 points and 4 points respectively. So that's interesting. It has got it a little bit better, but it's still a bad matchup for us, don't get me wrong. Demons, where we were losing by 18 points, has now gone up to 1. I guess that's maybe because Demons got a lot of press time when Pariah dropped. So then loads of people were like, oh, I'm going to play Demons again. And actually, they're really difficult to play. So as a result, we've probably had some good games against that. I'd like to add that I've helped on that one with my win against Demons. We've also, however, World Eaters has become more difficult. I think that's probably because more people are playing Vanguard and again, don't realize that you can absolutely get pummeled very quickly by World Eaters. And 26 points is no joke, right? Like that's strong. that's a hurt. We've also then the Templars one is obviously a very small sample size, so I would probably ignore that. However, the Tyranid matchup, the mirror matchup has switched. which is surprising to me as well. I don't understand that, to be quite honest with you.
No.
But hey, if it's true, it's true. I guess again, it's probably more people coming in back into Tyranids, playing it, and then going, oh wow, this is harder. You can't just, if you get charged, you're dead. And a lot of Tyranids do play off standoffish a little bit, I suppose. So there is a bit of that maybe. And I think that's the last slide we've done. So yeah, that's it. That's it for the slides. What have we ended up with? What am I playing? 50% have gone with my Crusher Stampede list. Okay, cool. So we'll play Crusher Stampede.
No, vote for the Synaptic Nexus. I want to put 3 nons on the table. Have no idea what to do with them.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, I was quite happy to play any of these, but I'm happy to play my Crusher Stampede list. I get to try the Norn out, and the Trigon out as well in that list, so that'll be quite fun. I mean, I've got loads of damage 3 into a lot of marine bodies, so let's hope that works. So very cool. All right, and guys, well that brings us to the end. Is there any questions in the chat? Let me just get that up.
A few of them.
A few of them.
It's a couple of questions.
All right, let's scroll up a bit. I wish I was clever enough to play Vanguard Onslaught.
we all think that.
We all do. A lot of us are hurting from the weekend from the Doom Melon. Yeah, the Doom Melon also, man. He was a Crusher Stampede hero for the weekend.
We were
had a similarly tough one to myself. We also have Danker's put a question in here. Do we also think it's because everyone's not playing Invasion Fleet, so there's so there's more flavor of lists out there? That's definitely true, man. I think we're seeing, I mean, just look at those Synaptic lists. I just showed 4 that were pretty different. You know, none of them were like, oh, it's the same list. They're all very different. I think it's interesting we're not seeing any Assimilation Swarm. I think a lot of people were giving that a lot of airtime at the start. I played one game of it, hated it, and said, no, this I cannot. You are playing, unless you're on an objective, you are playing vanilla Tyranids, which is not a good place to be. I am also, it's a shame that we're not seeing Unending Swarm. I appreciate they've got a nerf, but I tell you what, I'm still not convinced they're terrible, and they're still in my potential for taking to Hellstorm. I think you can surprise a lot of people with that many guns.
I think, unfortunately, you get lifted by the Blood Angels and Sisters.
True. Yeah.
The fact that you can't kill Space Marines doesn't help when they're in your face killing all your stuff.
No, this is true.
So I think there is a way you can build them, but I think you end up going back to kind of the monsterish builds of like Exocrines and Maleceptors in Unending Swarm.
Yeah. And
I think that we're probably at that point you're better off in Synaptic Nexus to try and make the use of those. I think that the changes to Invasion Fleet just meant that they're not. So it's not specifically the changes to Invasion Fleet, and we went over this in the last one, but the ability to not double up on the 5 at Feel No Pain, and other armies getting access to lethals with the Hive Tyrant Aura just means that when you're not struggling as much in the other detachments to do damage to high toughness things as you used to be, because like the only way to get lethals was in Invasion Fleet, which is why it was the default kind of that alongside Swarm are kind of the default best attachments, because you could kill everything, you could deal with stuff, but now that's not the case anymore. There's a big step up with the other detachments. I think Crusher, weirdly, if you look at a single specific detachment, if you look at the detachment rules, Crusher's had one hell of a glow up. Just one stratagem changing to be able to walk through walls just makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
And I think that just because the small changes to Invasion Fleet and just everything else getting better just means that you can do a lot more with Tyranids, and I do think it's better that way. I think having 2 or 3, like there's the 3 detachments that are like the quote unquote best ones is Vanguard, Onslaught, Synaptic Nexus, Invasion Fleet. Still, like Invasion Fleet is still just default good Tyranids, and obviously Crusher Stampede has a place. I'm very curious to how Crusher plays on UKTC. Which is a lot more terrain dense now as Forge War Titans picked up. So I do think that just having more options is really good. I think the Doom Melon's got a good question as well, which is, have we looked at the win rates on different terrain setups? I know Sheffield was 40% overall. The new maps have fewer angles of line of sight, so exos are struggling. And I think that's something we identified at the beginning that you did as well, Davey, that you're going to drop one from your list, and I'm tempted to drop one from my list to put in a Harrispex instead, because, if you now with those 3x9 inches, which is when you actually put it on the table, it doesn't look that big on the little maps that they put for UKTC, but when you put that 3x9 on a table, it's quite a lot of space. Like, you've got to think that you've got 18 inches of terrain along the board, which is now blocked off and able to provide LOS blocking terrain.
Yeah,
I think that terrain will make a substantial difference to the win rate of your more monster-focused detachments. Vanguard Onslaught obviously walks through it all, so it doesn't matter as much. So I do think that's major. And I do like that they clarified with that terrain that in UKTC that you can shoot even when you're not fully within it, because you can't actually fit an exocrine fully within the base.
Yeah, absolutely.
3 inches. So they did clarify that you can put your exocrine in and it can actually shoot out. But I do really think now that Maliceptors are kind of king of Tyranids, because you're a close range, you've got a lot of defense, and you can play those close quarter engagements much better.
Well, we said about this win in our me and JP do talk outside of the show sometimes, and we were saying that I think the thing that separates Tyranids from top tier armies, really, because Tyranids are not bad, like they've got assets, but they don't have that broken combo, that broken special something that, like, they're very fair. I think for the most part, it's a very fair matchup with Tyranids. They've got some tricks, but broadly speaking, it's like, okay, well, this is what they do, and I can work around that. Some armies just don't have the solution, or it's a very difficult solution, and I think that's where we're probably falling down a little bit. Byron here saying, I think UKTC maps, the new ones, were better for monsters. I wonder why that was, Byron. It maybe something to do with the guy that designed them, who plays Invasion Fleet.
To be fair, I'll hold my hands up. I've looked at the terrain pack, and so I think these new maps are actually really well thought out, and
they're very good.
Better
high five to Byron.
Than the Leviathan one. So honestly, props to the team that put them together. They are looking really, really good. Yeah,
they're really sick. I cannot wait to play on them, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, cool. All right, well, that will bring us to the end of the show.
Just one quick one, which I did notice later on. In terms of the walls, how I understand it and how I understand the stratagem is the smallest owls, so the footprinted ones, they're technically less than 4 inches tall, correct?
The small, this little L's, yeah.
Not the ruin ones. That you've got the large, medium, and small L's. So the small L's.
Yeah, the small L. Yeah.
They class as being less than 4 inches tall.
They are less than 4 inches. Yeah.
So you don't take. So when you walk through them, you don't need to take a battle shock roll, which is really good, because it's only on terrain pieces that are greater than 4 inches that you have to take the battle shock roll.
JP, I think we're in danger of convincing people that Crusher Stampede's good.
That's good. That's what I want to do. I want more people to play Crusher because it's good.
Well, good's a strong word, man. Like, what did it have? I think the win rate this weekend was like 30 or 40%.
I am going to believe. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best effort, and Carl's going to laugh at me in TTR. I'm going to believe that Crusher can win, and I'm going to increase the win rate on my own. I'm going to believe. It's like Orcs. Red ones go faster because it's got red. So I'm going to believe that the Crusher is good.
And come and watch me body Ed Watts, golden ticket winner Ed Watts this Friday on the channel as well. Well, that'll bring it to an end from us. Thank you very much for watching. Please, if you've enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe. We absolutely love it when you do that. We are trying to put out more content, but unfortunately my son keeps getting sick and then I have to stay off work, and then I don't have time. But I have got on the blocks to do a Crusher Stampede video similar to the ones that we've done for Vanguard Onslaught and the Invasion Fleet. So that is on the chop on the line. We've also got maybe potential Synaptic one, but I think that is still so fluid that we're still going to have to wait and find out where that lands. But yes, so there's some of the things we're looking at doing. And then, of course, tournament reports as and when they come up. Hopefully I'll do one for Hellstorm. I did start doing one for the Spain event, but then my hangover and getting my poo pushed in distracted me from taking pictures. So it was fun. It's good time though. Cool. We will see you next time on Bug Watch, which will probably be in 2 weeks, or maybe next week if we have fine time. We'll see how we get on. All right. See you later. Have a good one. Bye.